The stench hit me first. Acrid, the ghost of pine and varnish and gasoline. Then the sight. A blackened cavity where my boathouse had stood. The aluminum skeleton of my 16-foot Lund melted into a grotesque sculpture against the setting sun. Gone. The boathouse, a relic my grandfather built, a place where my daughter took her first hesitant steps towards the water. And the boat, my boat, vanished, as if consumed by the inferno itself. They said it was an accident, a stray spark, perhaps. But I knew Karen Berner, our HOA president, a woman whose soul was a tighter knot than her perpetually pursed lips. She'd escalated from passive-aggressive notes about lawn height to outright threats over the color of my damn porch light. This, however, this was different. This wasn't petty tyranny. This was a declaration of war. They thought I was just another homeowner to bully into submission. They didn't know the lengths I'd go to when someone touched my family or its legacy. They didn't know about Marcus. You might think this started with the fire, but you'd be wrong. It began with a misplaced garden gnome, then a citation for unharmonious wind chimes. Karen Berner, self-appointed queen of our lakeside fiefdom, thrived on control, a petty despot wielding the CC, ours like a scepter. Her eyes, small and hard, always seemed to be judging, calculating. I'd played by the rules, initially. Filed the appropriate forms, painted the trim, the approved shade of beige, even endured her smug pronouncements at the quarterly HOA meetings, her voice a monotone drone that could curdle milk. She saw compliance as weakness. My politeness, my attempts at de-escalation, she mistook for fear. The notes became more frequent, the violations more absurd. Excessive laughter emanating from property. One read. Another cited, unapproved lakeside meditation. Each one was a small poke, a test of boundaries. I absorbed them, documented them, filed them away. Because even then, a part of me knew this wasn't just about a badly run HOA. This was about a personality type, the kind that can't stand to see anyone else happy or free. The kind that, if unchecked, festers. The char was still warm when I knelt, sifting ashes through my fingers. My daughter's tiny faded life vest, the one I kept for sentiment, was a singed, unrecognizable lump. That's when the cold precision settled in, a calm that belied the inferno in my chest. This wasn't just property damage. This was a violation of something sacred, an attempt to burn away memory itself. The local fire marshal, a portly man named Henderson who seemed more interested in his early dinner than in justice, mumbled something about faulty wiring. I looked him dead in the eye. This wasn't faulty wiring, Marshal. This was arson. And the boat? Boats don't just vaporize in a wood fire. He shrugged, a gesture of profound indifference. But then Mrs. Henderson from next door, a woman who usually communicated only through disapproving glares orchestrated by Karen, appeared. Her face was pale. "I saw her," she whispered, voice trembling. Karen, she was around, just before, acting strange. Another neighbor, young Tim, a college kid usually glued to his phone, nodded. "Yeah, I saw her too." Had this weird little smile. The silent majority, finally finding its voice, albeit in hushed tones. They'd seen. They knew. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. The local authorities might be useless, but I wasn't alone. That night, the call to my brother Marcus was brief. I laid out the facts, the destruction, the whispers of witnesses. Marcus, a federal prosecutor who'd faced down men who made Karen Berner look like a kindergarten bully, listened in silence. His voice, when it came, was like chipped ice. She burned it down? With the boat inside? A statement, not a question. The federal part of his title wasn't just a job description. It was a mindset, a level of operational thinking Karen couldn't possibly comprehend. "Pack a bag, little sister," he said. The little, a term of endearment that always signaled he was shifting into protective overdrive. "I'm on the next flight. We're going to dismantle her. Legally. Methodically." She picked a fight with the wrong family. There was no triumph in his voice, just the cold, hard promise of methodical retribution. The board listing the HOA regulations, the one Karen brandished like a holy text, was about to become her indictment. Marcus arrived looking like he'd stepped out of a legal thriller, all sharp suit and sharper intellect. He didn't waste time on sympathy, he was already in tactical mode. "Witnesses first," he stated, his briefcase clicking open on my kitchen table, revealing not just legal pads but a digital voice recorder and a gaze that missed nothing. Old Mrs. Henderson, surprisingly, blossomed under his calm, respectful questioning, her memory for details suddenly photographic. Tim, the college kid, turned out to be a gold mine. His gaming rig's security camera, angled just so, had caught glimpses of Karen's car near the Boathouse path, at a time she claimed to be at a regional HOA strategy brunch. My tech-savvy neighbor, Dave, a quiet man who ran an IT consultancy from his basement, and who Karen had once fined for unauthorized satellite dish aesthetics, emerged as an unexpected ally. He'd had his own suspicions about Karen for years. "Her Wi-Fi," he said, a gleam in his eye. "She's sloppy, always using default passwords for her less important devices. Let me see what I can find on the public record, what her digital footprint looks like around the time of the fire." The game was afoot, and Karen had no idea the caliber of players now arrayed against her. The first official salvo was a meticulously crafted letter from Marcus Thorne, Esquire, Office of the United States Attorney, delivered by certified mail, outlining intent to pursue civil and criminal charges, referencing witness statements, and hinting at digital evidence. We sent copies to every member of the HOA board, and to the local chief of police, whose bored indifference suddenly sharpened. The effect was instantaneous. Karen's smug calls about replacing my non-compliant mailbox, which hadn't even been on the previous week's violation list, ceased. I imagined her rereading Marcus's letterhead, the federal seal perhaps giving her the first inkling that she'd kicked a hornet's nest far larger and more venomous than she'd anticipated. Dave, our quiet IT guru, managed to legally recover deleted geolocation data from one of Karen's publicly synced cloud accounts, a map painting her movements with damning precision, placing her at the lake access point just minutes before the first smoke was spotted. It was circumstantial, but combined with eyewitnesses and Tim's camera footage, the picture forming was undeniable. The sheer weight of organized, documented facts began to press down. The legal filings, dense with statutes and precedents, were like artillery bombardments, each one designed to expose another flank of her crumbling defense. Karen, predictably, doubled down on her arrogance. At an emergency HOA meeting she herself called, presumably to rally her dwindling support and paint me as a troublemaker, she tried to discredit the Hendersons, calling Mrs. Henderson senile and Tim a delinquent with too much time on his hands. She declared my brother's involvement an outrageous overreach of federal power into community matters. This was her fatal mistake. Marcus, who had anticipated this, sat quietly in the back, an observer. He let her dig her hole, her voice growing shriller, her accusations wilder. He'd coached the Hendersons and Tim. When Karen paused for breath, Mrs. Henderson stood, no longer timid. "I may be old, Karen," she said, her voice clear and steady, "but I know what I saw." "And I know you're lying," Tim followed, calmly presenting enlarged, time-stamped stills from his security footage showing Karen's distinctive car. The other neighbors, the ones who'd suffered in silence, began to murmur, then to speak out, a dam of resentment breaking. The public reckoning was brutal and swift. Marcus didn't even need to present Dave's digital evidence in that forum. Karen had self-immolated. Faced with Tim's footage and Mrs. Henderson's unwavering testimony, amplified by a chorus of other aggrieved homeowners now emboldened to share their own stories of Karen's petty tyrannies, her composure shattered. Her face, usually a mask of smug superiority, crumpled. The HOA board members, seeing the tide turn so decisively, began to distance themselves from her, their faces studies in dawning horror and self-preservation. The local police, now under pressure from Marcus's office and the sheer volume of credible complaints, finally opened a formal arson investigation. Within days, armed with the witness statements, Tim's footage, and Dave's now legally obtained digital forensics, they had enough. The arrest warrant was served not at her home, but at the next scheduled HOA meeting, a touch of theatrical justice Marcus hadn't planned but certainly appreciated. Seeing Karen Berner, stripped of her power, her face pale and slack with shock as handcuffs clicked shut, was not triumph. It was a grim necessity. There was a profound sense of exhaustion, the kind that comes after a long, dirty fight. The legal fallout was extensive. Karen faced serious charges. The HOA was thrown into chaos, the board resigning en masse, leading to its eventual dissolution and reformation under new, saner leadership. We never recovered the boat. It was likely sold or dumped, its VIN untraceable. The insurance covered some of the boathouse, but not the history, not the sentiment. Rebuilding it felt different. A conscious act of defiance and reclamation, not just of property, but of peace. The cost was high, not in dollars, but in the scar tissue left on our sense of community, a reminder of the darkness that can fester under a veneer of suburban order. The new boathouse stands now, a little starker perhaps than the old one, its lines cleaner, more modern. The porch light is whatever damn color I choose. The gate to the lake path has a new, very sturdy lock. It's not just about keeping people out, it's about psychological closure, a definitive statement that this ground is protected. They burned down a structure, but they forged something stronger in its place. An understanding that when family and legacy are threatened, there are no lines I or Marcus won't cross to defend them. Some fires, you see, don't just destroy, they temper. And some people, when pushed too far, don't just break. They become crucible steel. They learned that the hard way.